Okay, so picking up where we left off, you've been doing a lot of fighting so far, and when you've defeated enemies, I've noticed that there are these little red pickups appearing. What exactly do they do? I mean, are they experience, or...?
From what's written on the screen, they seem to, basically be a form of experience orbs, which I assume that you will spend as you did in Devil May Cry and pretty much every other Japanese action game since Onimusha on leveling up the character's attributes, possibly earning him new moves. But yeah, it's a fairly familiar system from these kind of third-person action games by now. Pretty much everything that Saki worked on before now has also used the same thing.
And presumably, as you haven't been able to access it so far in the demo, you'll be able to spend your points at the end of the level or whenever you come across a specific merchant or something.
Yeah, I mean that's fairly typical, isn't it? Devil May Cry would let you do it at power-up points and in between chapters. Onimusha was the same, wasn't it? You had to go and log into a save point. And I assume it would be different here.
You mentioned that the combat's all done with one button. Does that kind of make it feel a bit button mashy or perhaps a little tedious, or is there enough depth there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so, because you change between weapons for one thing, depending on who you're fighting and whether you choose to take their weapon. But also, you get different types of attacks can be used depending on how much pressure you apply to the button and for how long.
Now this is an interesting section, the 2D platforming.
Yeah.
I presume that's Satan speaking to you. What's he saying right now?
Hang on, I can't see. He's saying that near here there is a weapon pickup, and that this will, this transforming thing will alter the nature of the object that you collect.
Okay, now that was incredibly jammy right there.
Yes, it was. Yes. I believe that's what you were saying. Anyway, I can't quite. The subtitle at the bottom here is a bit small on my screen for me to be able to clearly make it out.
Yeah. But this is quite an interesting platforming mechanic, isn't it? Running along there, I presume that's sand.
It's water.
Oh, is it water?
Yeah, it's waves. It's got something of a feeling of Hokusai prints about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those ukiyo-e kind of things. Apparently the game is going to constitute something like 10% side-scrolling platforming, which, on this evidence are absolutely beautiful. It does look like a sort of water print scroll or something come to life. Again, recalling Okami, which may use some similar effects, although not quite this level because it was on an earlier generation of hardware.
Well, yeah, you've made a lot of comparisons to other Capcom games, but this isn't a Capcom game. But it is worked on by people that used to work at Capcom, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it recalls earlier Capcom titles, but I think that's entirely fair since the games it recalls are the ones that were worked on by the director himself. You know, he's only plagiarising himself, if you could call it plagiarism, which I don't think. Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems to be in a kind of continuity with things like Devil May Cry 3 and Okami, visually, the character design and the combat system. I think there's been an attempt to make it a bit more accessible than Devil May Cry, which is an extremely hard game. And that's fairly successful so far. I mean, Sawaki in the interviews that I've seen has spoken of wanting people to be able to pick up and actually enjoy it. Which seems to be a common thing with Japanese action games recently, with Bayonetta and Marvel vs. Capcom including automatic modes for people who only wanted to just press one button.
Well, yeah, of course, it's not a problem so long as it's not the only mode.
No, well,
if you can choose to turn it on and off, then it's no problem at all.
Yeah. And actually, I found this actually quite difficult.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that there's only the one button to have to master, there's still a lot of timing required and corralling enemies in the right places.
I'm not sure if we touched on this before, but what is the benefit of taking away a enemy's weapon? I mean, beyond the obvious, they're not able to attack you.
Yeah, well, they can still attack you. They can't.
Oh, okay.
They can't hit you so hard.
So it basically just weakens them.
Yeah. And I believe there is a system of weapon corruption where over time your weapons will become fouled by the wickedness of the people you're hitting them with, and you have to press the L1 button to purify them.
Okay. Now, what is Satan telling you here?
He is telling me that this guy has got big punchy metal fists, which are going to be the last weapon that I'm going to need to use, so it would be better if I take them off him and show him what I can do with them. So I'm assuming they'll have to be used to crack open his scaling armor.
Oh, and that's the end of the demo. So just quickly summing up, the game's out in Japan on the 28th of this month.
That's right, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so anytime soon coming out here?
Not announced so far. I'll keep our fingers crossed and eyes open.
Thank you for playing. Presented by
Newb Review.